Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Adil Raja. I welcome you to Soldier Speaks English. And today I've got a special guest with me, Eric Sperling. Eric, welcome to the show. And Eric, would you like to introduce yourself to my audience, please?
Sure. Well, it's great to be here. My name is Eric Sperling. I'm the executive director of Just Foreign Policy. I've been working on U.S. policy towards Pakistan now for many years, particularly since the stolen election. And I'm a former congressional staffer for members that tend to be progressive, but often do collaboration across the political spectrum to end wars and support diplomacy. So.
Thank you, Eric, for joining us. Eric, once you say the election which were stolen, you're talking about the Pakistani election, I believe, and the drop site news story, which featured the Commonwealth report, have actually established the fact the Pakistani election stolen, and they were stolen by a military dictator and a de facto ruler of Pakistan, who is now Trump's favorite field marshal. So in a way, and he's also his mediator in Iran war. Now, whatsoever is going on over there, we'll come to that. But by calling Asim Munir his favorite field marshal, don't you think that Trump is empowering dictatorship in Pakistan, as U.S. establishment has done in the past as well? Is legitimizing an illegitimate regime in Pakistan, whereas he came to power with the promises of restoring democracy in Pakistan and restoring the popular leader Imran Khan, for whom 90% of the people of Pakistan voted for. But Trump did exactly opposite that, and there's a lot of rumors and allegations about personal wheeling dealing with his family, crypto deals, and the Roosevelt Hotel deal going around. But once a U.S. president calls a dictator his favorite field marshal, how does it play out? And how is it being seen in the power corridors of Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, well, I think, to the average person who cares about democracy, or who has some basic sense of kind of what decent government looks like, to call someone your favorite field marshal, it's almost an oxymoron, right? The idea that you could have a favorite field marshal, I think anyone just looking at that with the basic awareness says, well, this is pretty disturbing. But I think it really reflects the success of essentially that long-standing DC bureaucracy at the State Department and in the intelligence services in the United States that was really seeking to try to avoid that outcome that obviously much of the Pakistani American diaspora community was hoping for. Largely resulting from Rick Grinnell's essentially is what appeared to be promises or commitments that he could follow through on. And then ultimately, I think what we saw was what many of us feared, which is that those forces that are in DC, we're going to work to try to avoid that, try to get Trump in, working closely with, and it seemed to be successful. I mean, everyone's seen the photos of Asim Munir showing the minerals that could have, now we've seen the reports, obviously, of the Witkoff connections, and even there was even earlier attempts, Trump. So this is a long-standing thing. They know Trump's not particularly committed ideologically, and if you can get his eye, on a different prize, he can kind of start looking that way. And I think they're feeling pretty good about that. But I think for those who have basic awareness of Pakistan, it's pretty clear this regime is not going to ever return to legitimacy. And their legitimacy is very dependent on this foreign support, and that's only going to last for so long. But I think that's where we are now.
Eric, do you believe that President Trump's relationship with the field marshal Asim Munir is a transactional relationship?
At most. I mean, it's at most a transactional relationship, if it's even that deep. I mean, we haven't seen him. I don't know that we've seen him say his name himself. He has said the field marshal. We've seen him say that. This is someone who is not going to have a deep personal relationship in that way with somebody like Asim Munir or Sharif. So yeah, it's they're trying to Rubio's goal is to essentially paint it as a transactional relationship, to get Trump thinking of it as a transactional relationship. But ultimately, I think people know that they're not going to be able to deliver on any of the transactional parts of the relationship, because they can't provide the security to do the type of long-term investment. They don't have the political stability to do that type of long-term investment. And that type of long-term investment in minerals, say, is not that lucrative in the first place without a major upfront cost. So, Yeah, no, I mean, I think he's thinking of it as a transactional relationship, and Rubio and others are just doing everything they can to keep Trump with a positive view of this regime, to avoid that moment that everyone is so afraid of, that Trump might say, hey, what happened about Imran Khan? I used to like that guy. And that's the main thing, that they're horrified that he might have that unexpected moment, and that one comment. This regime is so fragile. I think everyone agrees. He makes that one comment, this regime would be on the rocks within seconds, basically.
So, Eric, talking about transactions, and since it is a transactional relationship, and since you're saying that Marco Rubio has been tasked to make it look like one as well, for obvious reasons, but the current transaction going, the favorite field marshal has been tasked, and his puppet prime minister has been tasked to strike a favorable deal for Trump with Iran, in which it should look like that Trump has won, and Trump should boost about it, and he's done that in last 48 hours, and it has resulted very badly for Trump himself. Trump has been embarrassed, obviously. I mean, JD Vance, the US vice president, goes to Islamabad, and obviously he must have had guarantees by the favorite field marshal Asim Munir that everything is all okay, you just come over here, sign the deal, I have sorted the Iranians out. But it ended in a deadlock. And now, further embarrassment that President Trump says that I'm sending my delegation to Islamabad, and they will talk to the Iranians, but the Iranians say that we are going to boycott the talk because you're not serious about it. So the transaction is not been completed in